Do you know what one of the hardest jobs in the entire jiu-jitsu world is? Promoting events. My guest today is someone who does exactly that, and I'm excited to learn more about what goes on behind the scenes at big tournaments. But since we're talking tournaments, let me remind you that when you're competing, you should plan to look your best both on the medal stand and on the mat. And the best way to do that is by visiting epicrollbjj.com and using the coupon code podcast15. Epic Roll is gear designed by grapplers for grapplers, so in addition to looking great off the mats, it's going to perform exactly like you need to on the mat. Don't waste more money on stuff for your jiu-jitsu that is not made for jiu-jitsu. Visit epicrollbjj.com and take 15% off your order with the code podcast15, and make sure you're following Epic Roll on Instagram at epicrollbjj. epicrollbjj.com, coupon code podcast15. My guest today is a jiu-jitsu black belt. He is an ADCC referee, and he is currently promoting the Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro. Please welcome to the show, Carlos Diaz. So, Carlos, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
It's my pleasure.
A couple questions I want to ask you, and I was disappointed because I had your Orlando event in my sights, and then blew my knee up, and we'll get to the event in a minute.
You're in Jersey, right?
I'm in Jersey, but I went to college at UCF in Orlando.
No shit, man. I'm literally a mile away from UC. All right, so I'm right. I live on University.
Okay.
Just that would be west of Rouse.
Okay. Yeah,
there's a fire station right there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the next traffic light after the fire station, before you get to Dean Road.
Okay.
I mean, if you take that light, if you're going west, I'm on the left side of the road. I live in that neighborhood.
I know exactly where you are. I went to school at UCF for a few years, and then I just stayed in Florida for a few years after that. So
okay,
I anytime something is happening in Orlando, I'm like, yo, I want to go. Yo, I want to go.
It's a good excuse to see the town again. Yeah. Where in Florida? Where in Florida did you stay? You stayed in the Orlando area?
Yeah, so I was in the Orlando area the whole time.
Okay.
I lived on campus at UCF for a few years. I lived down off on Dean Road. If you're going down, like you cross over 50 and you're on Dean Road, there's a development on the left that before you get to 408 to get on the 408, there's like a little development on the left. I lived in there for a few years.
Okay.
We try to get down there. My wife and I try to get down to Orlando like 2 or 3 times a year. All my friends still live there. My whole.
Cool. Were you training when you were down here?
No, I never trained when I was down there, and then I moved back to. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I moved back to PA, and I just wandered into a jiu-jitsu class because I wanted to try it. I liked watching the UFC, and I was like, "Oh, let me try jiu-jitsu." And then that turned into, do you want to do an amateur fight? Which turned into fighting professionally. And
right.
So I was supposed to, I'm going to cut all this out because no one cares about this. I was supposed to move back to Orlando in like 2012, 2013.
Okay.
And I was supposed to move back, and my coach at the time was like, yo, you want to do an amateur fight? Like, try out an amateur fight. And I was like, sure, like bucket list, do an amateur fight.
Sure.
The fight was in November. I was supposed to move back in December. I won the fight in November, and they were like, hey, fight again for us in 3 weeks in December. And I was like, all right. So we pushed back the moving date, and I won that fight. And I was like, wait a second, like I might be good at this. Like maybe I should just stay.
I might have something going on with this.
This might work out okay for me. And I just stayed. I never moved back. And then once fighting was done, like I met my wife, we have our kids, we live here now. But yeah, I was 50-50, probably more than 50-50, 70-30, maybe move back to Orlando, like probably was going to do it, and just I'm still here. So like I said, we try to come down to Orlando like 2-3 times a year to see everybody.
Listen, whenever you guys come down, let me know. Like I am, shit. Obviously you didn't know, but I don't know if you know Paul Rodriguez.
I know of Paul Rodriguez.
His school used to be on the corner of Dean and University.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, he moved to right off of 50 and it's closer to 417
Okay.
than anything else. But you know, he has a pretty good school and pretty busy. He's got a couple of good guys. He gets a lot of the guys, the bigger names that, I mean, he's been around this for a really long time.
Yeah.
But he's real quiet. He's very behind the scenes sort of guy. And you know, he's got almost like, you know, Philly fresh. You know, he's a black belt on the Paul Rodriguez. Pretty much all the old school black belts in the Orlando area, they still come in and train with Paul for their big MMA fights, or you know,
So
all
you
that.
know Philly Fresh, Phil Rowe. You're talking
Yeah,
about Phil Rowe. I fought Phil Rowe in MMA in my very first MMA fight. I fought him in April of 2015. Yeah.
No
So
shit.
yeah, he.
There you go. There's a little connection
dude,
there.
He's a good dude, man. He's really good, really good. And anytime he fights, I get two feelings. The first feeling is I really, really hope he becomes a UFC champ so that I can say that I fought a guy who went on to be a UFC champ. But the second feeling I get is, God damn it, I wish I didn't break my arm, because that's why I stopped fighting. I broke my arm really bad in a fight, and I could not fight anymore. So he was a guy who, like, I think I was his like second fight, and he was my first fight. You know what I mean? So we should have been right with each other the whole way up.
Right there. Yeah.
And then I fell off. Injuries happen.
So I stopped fighting because I tore my labrum on part of my pec muscle on my second to last MMA fight. And, you know, I took the guy down. I landed on my elbow. So he jammed everything back on the takedown. And I had the surgery. I fixed it, went through the rehab, the whole thing. I took one more fight after that. And then I was like, I'm getting too old for this mess. My body's not recovering the same. Yeah, I'll leave it to the young studs. So here we are.
You get to, I always say, with fighting, it's like with other sports, if you're good enough at that sport, you're going to make it. You'll get to, you know, the big leagues and you'll be successful. But with fighting, you have to be a little bit lucky that someone sees your fight. You have to win, obviously, but you also have to have fights that people want to see. So you can be the best fighter in the world and your fights are super boring. You're not getting called up. So there's all these variables. And then you mix in the fact that you have to not get hurt and not have a career-ending injury.
Absolutely.
It's just such a crapshoot sometimes. But
listen, I'll tell you a guy around my era who was probably arguably the best 135, 145 pound guy at the time. And nobody cared to watch him because he was boring as hell, but he was the best guy. Antonio McKee.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I think he might have gotten maybe 2-3 losses overall in his career.
Yeah. But you know? People just move on because it's just not captivating enough, you know, and that's
and you're 100, you only, you know, and you're 100% right. You got to be lucky to get somebody worth a sweat that is going to say, let's give this guy a call. Not get hurt, obviously. You know, and you're only as good as your last fight, because you can have a beautiful record of great fights and, you lost one fight to, you know, you just had one bad day. That's what they're going to remember you by.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and, you know, the other thing nowadays is, you know, in the last, I'm going to say 7-8 years, we're in the era of social media. You know, and a lot of guys still today don't know how to use it properly either.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because I know guys personally with, let's say, 1,500 followers, but their imprint is huge. You know, their imprint is in the tens of thousands, you know, and I also know people with 5 million followers, literally 5 million followers, but their imprint is minimal. So, you know, they really don't know how to market themselves and how to, you know, you got to put it's not only the work you're going to put in the gym in order to, be successful in your fights and in your athletic career, but it's also putting the effort in getting your name out there. Oh, who the heck is this guy? Oh, or at least put that bug. Oh, I've heard his name somewhere. Where do I know him
Right,
from?
right. Well, that's like
So,
Phil Rowe. He's good on social media. He's got good stuff where he's
really good.
constantly posting. He's constantly getting engagement and interaction with fans. He's
Yeah,
doing, which leads to him doing matches against Gordon Ryan and getting his name out there and being well known. So
yeah,
when he fights on the UFC, he might fight like on the prelims or the undercard. Probably the best known guy who's fighting on the prelims, which turns into being the guy who's fighting on the main card,
yeah,
which turns into, and your Instagram is not going to do it for you. Your Instagram is not
yeah.
going to get you to the UFC, but
No,
it's a
but it's a
tool. It's a
tool.
tool that people don't take advantage of, you know?
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So, well, let's speaking of Phil Rowe and Gordon Ryan, let's talk some jujitsu, which is another
Let's
great segue by me.
Sure.
Um,
Let's do it.
I mentioned a few minutes ago, I had my eyes on your event in Orlando. For anyone who's not familiar with like the Abu Dhabi Jiu Jitsu Pro or any of those events, can you just give us a little bit of background on the organization and like how you got involved with them?
For sure. So the AJP, or Abu Dhabi Jiu Jitsu Pro, it is a gi and no gi event. Obviously originated in the UAE, but now it's a worldwide mechanism and a worldwide organization. AJP is really popular, obviously all throughout Europe, Asia, um, and South America. However, it hasn't really taken off in the US. They've done some events here and there, and in the past they were doing pretty okay. Um, some of their presence kind of fell down a little bit, but they're a very prestigious event because one of the things that they do is, for example, we are part of their International Pro Tour, which gives you points towards the AJP Grand Slam. And they have a couple of other series like King and Queen of the Mat, the AJP Pro Invite. So, but the Grand Slam is kind of like their quote unquote world championships, where you accumulate points by competing on the lower ranked events like the International Pro event. And as you accumulate points, it seeds you and gives you entry to the Grand Slam, which the winners actually win pretty substantial cash prizes. And they usually do the Grand Slam in the UAE, but usually the Grand Slam is a really big deal. The best of the best have competed in it. Buchecha has, Galvao has, Mika Galvao, Fabricio Andri just won it, Diego Reyes, all Lobato has competed in it. Anyways, all the big names have competed in it. It's a great organization. They're very well organized. Even to a point, I'm the kind of guy, my personality, I'm very, okay, what do we need to do? Let's get it done. These guys are, hold on, hold your horses. Let's look at the big picture. And kind of sort of do a reverse engineering. This is what we need to do in order to get XYZ done.
Right.
But in turn, when the event actually goes, it's very smooth, very, very organized. We are very honored to be a part of it. They reached out to us, myself and my partner, Mike Davis, in order to, kind of do the first inaugural event of the season for the year 2022, the first inaugural event in the U.S. And this is where we're at. So we're very, very excited about it. It's going to be on April 16th here in Orlando, Florida, at the Dover Shores Community Center. It's a brand new, beautiful facility. So it's going to be, again, it's a fresh, brand new facility. They're being very gracious, accommodating for us because it's a facility owned by the city, but they understand. We show them the videos. They're very welcoming, and they want the community to grow and be involved. So it's really cool how they're working with us as well.
Why do you think it hasn't taken off as much in the US as it has other places? Because like I'm a jiu-jitsu nerd, so
Yeah.
I try to watch everything. I try to see every single thing that happens and know every result of every match in the world, which is a problem. So I'm
Yeah.
aware of the organization, but it's like you said, I feel like it doesn't really get as much recognition in the US. Do you have a reason why you think that is?
Man, listen, I can give you a million excuses and they probably will be all wrong. But being a jiu-jitsu nerd myself, um, I, you know, public memory is very limited. By that, what I mean is it's short-lived. So you need to maintain a consistent presence in the people's face. So a lot of times with certain organizers, if it doesn't work the first event or the second event, they kind of give up a little bit. And that's part of also that I personally, in being a jiu-jitsu nerd myself, there hasn't, in my opinion, been enough AJPs. There's been a few, but in my opinion, not enough. So, it's one of the things that we hope to correct, and not really correct. I wouldn't say that, but to tackle, to enforce a little bit more, be a little bit more proactive about that, and hopefully have more events. We have the one in Orlando already in place, full force. We have a good pre-registration going on. We looked at the numbers the other day, and we're doing okay. We have our second and third event already projected. And what we're looking at is probably making it once every 2 to 3 months. We do have to hold a little bit until the Orlando happens to announce immediately after our next location. But more than likely, once we finish with Orlando, we will announce our next 2 locations.
I was hoping for a little bit of breaking news here. You're gonna drop the exclusive for me, but
it's again. I've learned this working with AJP. They don't like surprises. They don't like breaking news until the bosses say, "Okay." They want to be So I gotta bite my tongue a little bit until I get there.
I respect it. I respect it. When I think doing like once every 2 months, I think that's a good schedule.
And as a spectator and as a participant, listen, you need some planning time. We know it is an investment. If you're from out of town, you got to plan, whatever travel, whether you're flying in or driving in, you got to find a hotel, which is some of the things that we are taking into consideration while we're planning our venues. So, let's say one of the possible cities we have in mind, not confirmed yet, I'll throw out there. Why? Well, there's a big travel hub, and it is relatively. They got a couple of hotels that are relatively inexpensive. Orlando, once again, is a tourist friendly city. So again, travel to Orlando is fairly inexpensive. There's a lot of hotels and reasonable rates and hotels, and then a lot of other things to do. We are at the beginning of the spring break season. So, which usually lasts till the end of April. So it could be something that come in, do, compete in the weekend and then do the rest of your spring break. Either I wouldn't recommend do the spring break before competing, but
especially if you got to make weight, man. You can't be stepping on the scale after 3 or 4 days.
Hey, listen, I'm not afraid, man. I'm ultra heavy, so I ain't scared, homie.
That was my plan. I was gonna come down and compete for a day, visit friends, go to the parks, be a tourist again for a little bit.
As a family on spring break, that's excellent perspective as well. So yeah, and those are some of the things that we're taking in consideration as we're planning our year with AJP.
Well, I said in the intro before you hopped on, I think one of the hardest jobs that no one talks about in jiu-jitsu is promoting an event and putting on a tournament and putting on a show. And I think a lot of people think, well, if I just rent a gym and put some mats down, people are going to show up and compete and I'm going to make a ton of money. And then that's the end of it and move on to the next one. But even like you
Yeah.
said, like I would never think like, oh, let's think about a place that people are already going to be prone to go, like a tourist location and hotels and thinking about what's around.
Yeah.
There has to
And
be so
and
many different layers you have to consider, right?
and you are correct. And it's actually that's a very good choice of word. There's a lot of different um, I have a good friend of mine, who a mentor of mine, and he happens to be much younger than me, but he's a very smart businessman. And I've learned with him that I hate to say, don't do it for the profit, but do it for the athlete, and he will pay off. Um, and unfortunately, nobody wants to lose money when you get into a business. That's just a fact of life. But there is a substantial investment, uh, and in different layers, just like you mentioned, in order to be able to produce a good quality event. You can go to a bunch of different places, and you will see all kinds of different events. And once you see the event and how it's ran and how it's produced, you know right away the intentions of that particular promoter. Um, you know, and I'm not trying to bash anybody on a shoestring budget, because I'll be honest with this. My partner and I, we're pretty much coming up with everything for this particular event out of our pocket. But we see it as an investment for the future. So, you could have a great shoestring budget event, but cater to the athletes. And, people will have a good time. People will have fun. Everybody will get some good matches. Everybody will see some good matches. And that's the idea, providing good quality refereeing, good time matches, a good proper service, and 50% of the participants, actually more than 50% of the participants, are going to be upset on the first round. Somebody's going to
That's
win,
how it
somebody's going
goes.
to lose. So
It's just
that's
how it
just the nature
goes.
of the beast. But
Yep.
I want everybody leaving with a good experience. I'll give you an example. All of our referee staff has to go through the official AJP court certification. Well, all of our referees have gone through it already before, because all of my referees, they just did their certification before November, at the end of October. I just made them go through it again on Sunday, and we're going to go through it again 1 week before the event. So I'm making these guys do the referee course 3 times just before the event. Why? Because I want to be as accurate as we possibly can. And that is one of the things that I'm a super stickler about. I want the refereeing to be, unbiased, impartial, and as accurate as possible by the book. I don't want some coach or somebody, oh, well, he wasn't X, Y, and Z, and the rule says. I don't care what other organizations do. Here is AJP rules, and this is what we do. This is how it is, and this is how your match was, refereed and judged based upon. But I want everybody to, they had a fair chance and a good time. It's all about having a good time.
Well, I think that just speaks to the athlete experience. If like referees are humans who make mistakes too, but knowing that you do everything you can to prevent those mistakes means that it's
Sure.
like one less thing as a competitor I have to worry about. Like, who is this guy reffing? Is this a guy that got out of the stands for $50 for the day because they needed
Yeah.
someone, or
No.
is this like an accredited person?
Right. Yeah. And again, like I said, I'm making all of our referees go through the rules course 3 times before our event. Um, we actually trying to work a deal to make them permanent basis on our events, so they can be as educated as possible, um, with the rule systems for AJP.
Now you have referee experience as well, right? You've refed for ADCC.
I've ref for a lot of different organizations, but the one that I've refereed probably the most is ADCC.
Are you refing anything for ADCC coming up, like West Coast Trials or
Absolutely,
ADCC in
I'll
the
be
fall?
there. I will be there April 1st. I will be present during the rules seminar with Mo Jassim and Peter Batowski. And then we'll be there all weekend. I actually just got a message from Mo Jassim. We officially have over 1,000 participants for the West Coast trials.
I saw, I think it was on Instagram the other day when they were talking about the biggest trials ever, and just like I think it's 77 kilos. It's like the biggest division of all time at
200,
ADCC.
256 participants. They capped it off because that's just, it's an insane amount of people.
Unreal. It's unreal. It's unreal. I was kind of hoping you were going to say that you're not reffing anything soon, so you could give me some predictions. But I think it would probably be problematic for you to give me predictions and matches you might end up reffing.
I learned quite some time ago not to do predictions because, especially on an event like ADCC, every year, if you noticed, ADCC has a huge underdog and dark horse come through and just throws everybody's predictions off. I think this year is going to be no different. I've seen, I've been to the East Coast North American trials. We were just about a month ago. We were down in both the South American trials. I guarantee you there will be some new names shocking the world. Maybe not shock the world for the nerds like you and I.
Yeah.
but definitely making some ruckus new names in the scene. And in my opinion, there's going to be some already known names that are just traditionally on the podium. That's just how they do it and what is expected of them. And I don't think it's going to be any different this year. But again, going back to your original statement, I've learned to predictions, not so much who I think might do better than others. Yeah, I have my choices. So, if you want to ask away.
Well, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to say, so Gordon versus Andre, who's going to win and how? And then what's going to happen is you're going to end up reffing that match. Your prediction is going to come back. There's going to be controversy in the match, and someone's going to pull this video up, and it'll go viral, which will be great for me. But there's going to be video of you saying, "Oh, you know what? I think that Galvao is going to do this and beat Gordon."
I could care less. We're still 6 months out from the World Championships. Yeah. I can care less because there's going to be absolutely. I'll tell you. Okay. Perfect example. Not this East Coast trials. Last East Coast trials. What was it? 2017 for the 29. Yeah, that's the one. For the 2017 East Coast trials, I was judging one of the mats, and it so happened that the son of a training partner of mine was competing. I'll get up from the table and walk away.
Yeah,
it's that simple. That's just my personality. But I have no interest in any of these horses in that particular race. But I'm going to tell you this. I think that match is about 50-50, in my opinion, as it could ever be.
Okay.
And I will tell you why. Gordon, it's as good as he says he is, with one thing in exception. His wrestling.
Right.
This is where Andre is way superior than Gordon. If anybody has a style to beat Gordon, it's Andre Galvao. If you watch Gordon's matches, people that try to pressure pass and people that try to kind of like bully him, he tends to take advantage of those situations. And his technique, he may not be the most dynamic guy, but his technique and strength takes him over. But then you get a guy like Andre, where the wrestling is superior. He is a 6-time ADCC champion, combining weight class, absolute, and superfight. which means he's extremely experienced and very knowledgeable on how to properly use the rules, because that's something else that people make a mistake. And also his style. Andre can wrestle, he can pressure pass, he can pass without pressure, what I call, bullfight or float passes.
Sure.
And he's a really good at the one part where Golden has fallen short in the last couple of years, and is back take. Felipe Pena has beaten Gordon 2 times by back take. Gordon is really good with back takes. And by jiu-jitsu math, Andre has beaten Felipe has beaten Gordon.
Right.
Andre should be Gordon, right? We know that doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
But
the math is there, but it's not right. It's not always there.
It's not always there. But the one thing that, throughout the years and meeting Gordon and watching him compete, but more than all that, is hearing him coach. People don't understand Gordon is a phenomenal coach, which leads to that he's a very intelligent grappler. He might have the cipher to beat Andre.
The way I view that match is that I feel if I pick against Gordon, I'm picking against a guy who's like undefeated for such a long time. He's had so many consecutive wins. And if I pick against that guy, you look like a real idiot unless he loses. Like, that's how I feel. I feel like if I'm picking against like the dominant champion, Gordon's won so much, but he hasn't competed in like a couple of years. So like that's the factor that makes it me iffy on it is Gordon, he had the match with Phil Rowe and, whatever. He's done a couple like charity matches.
Right.
He hasn't really been like put to it for a couple years. And maybe that first big, like, it's a grudge match against a 6-time ADCC champion.
But here's the thing. And like we said, the math is there, but it's not there. Also, you have to understand, for a super fight, in ADCC, the negative points will begin from the start. So if Gordon pulls guard, he's going to eat a -1 from the beginning. So now he needs to do everything in his power to sweep or submit Andre to the point that he can balance that scoring, of eating that -1. If he chooses to pull guard. Then there's other strategic ways to avoid that negative point as well, which I'm not going to get into right now. But, knowing Gordon, he knows how to use those rules to his advantage and avoid that negative point and take the match to the ground right away without having to wrestle Andre too much. But Andre knows this. So, what it could be his strategy. Maintaining enough control and force Gordon to wrestle with him, and take the match to the ground in an aggressive way, and works a particular strategy that it will force Gordon to stand up again and trying to play that wrestling game with him.
Right.
That's an option. And Andre's no chump on the ground.
No.
You don't get to become, a multiple-time world champion in the gi, no gi, 6-time ADCC champion by just being any bum. That just doesn't happen.
No.
He's physically imposing. He knows the rules. He's technically proficient. So this is why I say this is one of those matches that I'm like going to say I'm not betting a single push-up on this match because it's very 50-50. Either one of the guys can win it.
And like I said, whoever you pick, if you're wrong, you would look foolish for that.
You look like a bum,
right?
Yeah.
Right. Like I can't believe you picked against Andre. Like how could you pick against him? Look at his record.
Yeah.
Well, you picked against Gordon. Look what Gordon is. Gordon's the best grappler. Like there's no. You have to be right in that pick, or else you're gonna look silly.
You have to take in consideration Gordon's doing the weight class also.
Right.
So he has to compete in all his weight class matches. Then obviously he's going to have a break for the absolutes, which he cannot do, because if he wins absolute and he wins Andre, who's going to face Gordon on the next super fight? Gordon himself? So no, they didn't allow that. But he is doing weight class. Now, here's what happened. That's going to get Gordon into a point. What if he has an injury? And listen, we know already Gordon is not afraid of competing with an injury. He's done it before. So is that going to hinder his proficiency? Is the conditioning on a super fight is a much longer match as well. So, by doing weight class before, again, is that going to hinder his conditioning to come in later and do the super fight with Andre, who's going to be fresh, and just warmed up and ready to go without having to compete the day before and no injuries or no potential injuries. So again, that's another thing that you want to take in consideration. If Gordon wins this, it's nothing short of impressive.
Right. And I think that
Andrew wins it, same thing, because Gordon has been undefeated for so many years by some of the biggest guys. And then people are probably going to use the excuse, but Gordon did the weight class too. He wasn't super fresh and ready. Listen, that was Gordon's choice. So
well,
it'll be interesting for sure.
I think that a lot of times the word super fight gets overused. Like, the purple belts who are competing at Fight to Win, calling their fight a super fight. Like, because it is whatever. This is a super fight. This is probably the most anticipated super fight in jiu-jitsu of all time. And
100%.
I hope that whoever wins, I hope that it's something that's won definitively. It's not a 1-point win. It's not a boring match.
It's not a close referee's decision.
Right, because there has been so much heat just between these two guys in the build-up. I'm ready for it to be concluded. You know what I mean? If it's not good, if it doesn't, if there's no climax to the match, and it's just gonna this could have happened, or like you said, Gordon did the weight class, or Andre did this. Like, somebody win definitively. And I know I'm getting super picky here. Don't win in the first minute, because I don't want to hear, it was a fluke, he caught him, he tripped and fell. Give me minute 5, minute 6 submission that's really well set up, that we have a definitive winner and we can, or just
a 20-minute smashing.
I'll take that too. Too. Because if it's a 20-minute smash fest, you can sign me up for the next one right away. But
on top of that, you also have to look at the names on each category. It is truly, in my opinion, and all the years that I've been with ADCC, the one time when you look at a 16-man division and you look at the bottom seed of that particular bracket, or the possible, because we still got a couple of openings because of the, Asian Pacific trials, and still one more North American trial and one more European. But when you look at and consider the possibilities, who will be the bottom seed on the 60-man bracket? And to think that name comes up as the bottom seed, it's insane.
Yeah, it's such a deep roster.
It is truly the who's in any of those particular weight classes. This year has been the one year when you look at the roster. All right, who's on 66 kilos? Yep, I've heard every single name. I know everybody in that division. Let's look at the 77 kilos, which is usually, in my opinion, is always the most fun, because they're strong. It's a bigger combination of things, and they're the most active. Yep, I've heard every name in that division. Same thing for every single. On the plus 99 divisions, I think there's five former champions.
Yeah.
On one division alone.
Yeah, it's wild. I was working on another video for something, and I was looking just on the confirmed competitors, people who've qualified, or the invites.
Yeah.
It's unreal. It's unreal who's going to be at this event. And I know that having like the year layoff and things getting sort of jumbled, I think made
Yeah,
everyone come back even hungrier, and it
of
gave more
course.
time for people to develop to be ready. But it's gonna be a ridiculous event, and I'm very jealous that you will be there, and I will be sitting right where I'm sitting right now watching, but
Oh man.
it is what it is. But Carlos, I could pick your brain for the next 4 hours all about ADCC, but before
Yeah.
for people that do not have blown up knees and they want to come and compete in Orlando, where should they be looking? What do they need to know? And how can they get more information?
For sure. It'll be our pleasure. So you can visit ajptour.com. Once again, it's ajptour.com. And all the information will be there. That is the primary AJP website, and they do all the registrations through their website. The back end user is actually Smooth Comp. So you will get notified if you have a Smooth Comp account, you will register with the AJP Federation on ajptour.com, find the Orlando event, sign up, but then all your notifications, like, mat times, match number, all that good stuff is going to be delivered to your phone as any other Smooth Comp event. So that's actually one great platform that AJP has, and it's very convenient. I will tell you this, from the organizer point of view, we run the mats hard. We try not to have any downtime,
Oh, I
because
hate that.
again,
I
that's
hate the
one of the
downtime.
reasons. Like,
I hate this sitting
yeah,
around. Oh, it's the worst. I hate
and it
the sitting
happens.
around between not doing anything. It's the worst.
Yeah, and it happens. Sometimes there's technical difficulties, whatever, staffing issues, but we really push. It's one of the things that we've done with some other events that we have worked, and we push again to keep those mats moving consistently. People want to be able to compete, have some fun, but they also don't want to be there from 10 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night. That's just a very ridiculous long day. So we try not to do that.
Perfect. And I'm gonna link to that to the site in the description below this episode. I'm gonna link to your social media as well, because you're posting stuff all the time that it's very useful information for people
Yeah,
to have.
thank you.
Um, Carlos, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. And now you're my Orlando connection for when I can come down and I can come train. I have a place to go.
For
But
sure, man. It'll be my pleasure.
I think the event's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super bummed that I'm going to be missing it. But when you come on and you're going to announce that you're going to New York next, that's close to me now. I can come to that one. Or Chicago or LA.
I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there.
All right, Carlos, I won't get you in trouble, but I'm coming to the next one. You can count on it.
Awesome, man. It'll be awesome to have you. The other thing is all the matches, all of the mats will be streamed on the AJP Tour YouTube channel, and also all the black belt finals and some of the specific matches will be also streamed on Fight TV. So,
oh, perfect.
We're looking forward to the collaboration with Fight TV. They always provide a lot of good, fun content. And, grappling is one of the things that they really want to do. So we had a conversation and it's going to work. So we're going to have all of the black belt finals with Fight TV, but all the matches will be streamed on the AJP Tour YouTube channel as well.
That's good to know for a jiu-jitsu nerd like me who's going to want to watch all of the matches. So thank you for letting me know, Carlos. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Carlos. I will talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Big thank you to Carlos for coming on today and talking about the AJP Tour. I put all of the links you need down in the description, so please check out Abu Dhabi Jiu Jitsu Pro and let me know down in the comments when you're planning on competing next. If you like this video, please smash that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. There are more videos over here for you to watch next, and I will see you all in the next episode.